Hello, my name's Jack Quinn. I am really sorry I cannot be with you to help you celebrate this special occasion, but you are in my thoughts. I was born in 1924 and left school in 1936, and I was apprentice plumber. In 1942, my age 17, I volunteered for the Marines. I did basic training at Chatham, but then volunteered for amphibious section, and then went to Dartmouth College to learn all about seafaring. I was promoted to corporal and sent for further training on high-speed personal landing craft. From August 1943, I trained as a coxswain and an assault landing craft for D-Day, mostly in Poole Harbour. In 1944, my section was told smarten itself up for a VIP inspection. This turned out to be King George V at 6, and Winston Churchill, who said to me, "Don't bloody let us down." On June the 4th, 1944, we set off on a convoy steamship which had been adapted to carry assault craft slung on the davits. We anchored 5 miles off Gold Beach in the night on June the 5th. My job was to deliver frogmen until the beaches where they would set underwater demolition charges, time to go off exactly at 6:30 a.m. when HMS Belfast would fire and the first salvo to open up the assault. I stayed on station all day, and I cannot really describe the sound and sensation of the day, which with the cries and wounded on the beach, which seemed very ending. In the late evening on the 6th, I saw a boat on fire nearby, and so against the orders of my major, I took my craft over to it and found it was a French boat under heavy fire and many wounded and dead. We took off everyone we could, and we was about 20 yards away. I'm muddling now. It was a French boat on fire and many wounded and dead. We took off everybody we could, and we were about 20 yards away when the boat exploded. Later, I was sent down to Arromanches, where we took off a man and a woman who was escaping from the Germans. They were OSC agents. We took everybody to the Canadian hospital ship, where it was discovered that I had seen wounded. SOE, the Canadian ship. It was discovered that I had been wounded by a bullet in the neck. I didn't realise that I'd been hit. It must have been that kept me adrenaline that kept me going. I was hospitalised for a while. When I returned to duty, I went on training for the liberation of Guernsey. This went on for months at Poole Harbour until the 7th of May 1945, where we set sail for Guernsey with our landing craft by another steamship, the SS Empire Rapier. Our ship anchored off the harbour with the landing craft on the leeward side so they could not be seen from the shore. I was instructed to take my craft to the harbour mouth. Everything seemed quiet, so when I was back to the ship until an officer said word we had given that the Germans would surrender. I returned to the harbour with an officer and the full compliments of Royal Marines, who went ashore and started processing and taking the German surrender. There was a bit of an argy-bargy, but nothing too serious, so I went up into the harbour wall where I was met by a old lady who kissed me, kissing everybody. Excuse me. I was only 19, and she gave me a piece of potato peeling pie, which was abominable, and spat it out, shouting immediately, thumped in the chest, as she said she could tell me that I have never been hungry. I had not realised how bad things had been for the people on Guernsey, and was sorry for what I had done. She told me there was nothing else left for them to eat. They're a great I can't get that. My throat's clogging. About the town. But my job was to ferry the German soldiers, mostly SS, once they had given up all the weapons, some 2,000 in all, back to my ship. We then returned to Southampton, where the German soldier went into a prisoner of war camp. That was the end of my role of the Second World War. Recently, the French government awarded me the Croix de Guerre and the Legion d'Honneur for my part in D-Day. Well, I went up the steps onto the quayside, and this lady, she was old, came to me, kissed me boobs, which I've already said, and then she gave me a bit of this potato peeling pie, which I tasted and spit it out. And I said to her, "That's horrible." And she said to me, hitting my chest, "You have never been hungry, young man." And that's true.
My name is John Dennett. I was a seaman gunner in the war, and I was due to visit Guernsey to celebrate VE Day this year. Unfortunately, it hasn't turned out that way, but we hope that we can come again. I joined the Navy in 1942, in March, at the age of 17. I served my training time in Plymouth, HMS Raleigh. When I passed my training, I was shipped to America to pick up a landing ship tank, and I spent one of the most memorable months of my life over there. We were in a country of plenty, and after leaving Britain, the state we were in, it was a different world. And we were sorry to leave America. When we did, we sailed across the Atlantic to North Africa and landed in Algiers. And when the North African campaign was finished, we took part in the invasion of Sicily in July 1942, and later on the Italian mainland took part in the landings at Salerno and Anzio. I returned to the UK in April 1944 to, as we know, was to prepare for D-Day. At the time we did not know that's what was happening until nearer the date. So on D-Day we sailed from Portsmouth and landed troops on Sword Beach. So knock it off a minute.
My name is Richard Llewellyn. I was born just on 95 years ago, and in the start of the war my parents were living in London, and in 1940 I was part of the Battle of Britain and then ultimately the bombing of London. So I saw quite a lot of the war before I was 15 years old. I joined the ARP as a messenger boy and cycled all over the place with dog fights going on overhead. I went to a school which taught me navigation and seamanship and boat handling and so on, so that by the time I was 17 and had just finished my school certificate exams, I was immediately into the Navy as a midshipman R&R, did short-term time at Greenwich Naval College, and then at Chatham Gunnery School learning how to foul guns and so on. That was a tough training. And then I joined HMS Howe. That was the first ship I was on. She was up in Scapa Flow, and it's cold and wet and not very nice in the winter up there. Eventually she came down to Plymouth for a refit, and I was sent on leave for a week, and then I was drafted into HMS Ajax that was stationed in Plymouth, and from there in Christmas 1943 we sailed for the Mediterranean. It was very rough and the sailors were very sick, but they soon got their sea legs. In the Mediterranean we did various things like bombarding roads and supporting the landings in Anzio and so on. And we went down to the Red Sea for gunnery practice, because what we didn't know really was that we were practicing for gunnery in the start of the Second Front, as it was called. So I happened to be lucky actually, because we're supporting the landings in Anzio. We were based in Naples, and in Naples Bay we happened to be there when Vesuvius erupted in 1944, which was very spectacular indeed. So in May 1944 we left the Mediterranean in secrecy at night and went up to Greenock, from where we did all sorts of gunnery practice, aircraft firing practice and so on and so forth. In June 1944 we eventually ended up on the south coast of England, joining a convoy of all sorts of landing craft and other ships going down to the Normandy coast. Very narrow swept channel, and I came on watch at 4 o'clock on the morning of D-Day. It's just getting light then because it was June, but a very grey morning, but sea reasonably calm, which was important. We sailed down this swept channel going due south to the Normandy coast, where we took up our position for bombardment at 5:15, and then at 5:15 we opened fire on our first target, which was a gun battery on the cliffs above Longcy-Mer. It was a 6-inch gun battery, and each of the guns was in a separate thick concrete emplacement. We had a duel with them, and eventually we knocked out 2 of the guns, and the other 2 were silenced, although they came back online later on during the day. at 7 o'clock before the landing started at 7:25. The aircraft from England came over, hundreds of them, and dropped bombs. There were rocket ships, rocket landing craft along the beach which sent out rockets. We were firing, all the ships were firing. The noise was absolutely stunning. During the operation we came back one night to re-ammunition because we'd run out of ammunition, and eventually we left Gold Beach because it was in safe hands, and we moved along to Sword Beach where we were engaged in trying to get rid of the German forces in Caen, which was holding up the British troops advancing into France. We finally left the D-Day beaches to go round to the south of France to assist with the landings in south of France, which obviously were very tame compared to the Normandy landings. So that is a tiny little extract of some memories from D-Day itself. Thank you.